I told you earlier on that the bench is full tonight, packed, jam-packed. That's why it's spilling over. And right now we're going to speak to a man I referred to earlier on as one of the architects of the BBI report. He insists he's not. He's just joint secretary, very humble and modest of him. Paul Mwangi joins me right now. Good to see you, sir. I don't want to put you in any kind of trouble, first of all.
That would be kind of you.
So, Paul, you look, it was an incredible day. We haven't seen this in Kenya in the last, since maybe the Constitution in 2010. But question is, what does it solve? What does today solve?
First, today brought together all our leaders and brought together in circumstances where there was no more grandstanding, there were no animosities, and they all came to take what our recommendations from BBI had been. This is something we've been doing for the last about 1 year, 1.5 years now. And you can tell from the mood that was there today that people are ready even to engage this in a much bigger way.
Yeah.
And that people who had not participated in the process are ready to possibly come in and take advantage of the goodwill that is there now.
Paul, you say there was no grandstanding today. How do you describe Senate Majority Leader Kipchumba Murkomen's stance today? How would you describe it's not grandstanding, it's not animosity?
I really was looking at the people who matter, and these are the political party leaders.
Okay.
And that's my view of it.
All right, let me ask you this. Look, a lot of critics say that there was nothing groundbreaking today. Many of your recommendations have already been put forth before. Kriegler report, TJRC report, etc., etc. What was groundbreaking today?
First, the fact that it was in Kriegler and in all the other reports and has never seen the light of day means that there is a problem. And that is one of the problems BBI was sent out to do. How come nothing gets done? How come we keep saying these things and nothing? And we did tell the principals in the country that is one of the problems we have, that's one of the problems we have to address. That we say things, we get into problems, we sweep them under the carpet, and therefore one of the things we have to begin with is first even look back at old solutions and realize that we do not implement old solutions because we love sweeping things under the carpet. Mm-hmm. And I think we are the first people to introspect and tell each other and tell the people openly that we have those weaknesses and that we need to address those weaknesses.
Yeah, okay.
Quite apart from the fact that we had all our own other solutions that we have proposed. So we do have a mix of old issues that were forgotten, that were swept under the carpet, and we brought them forth again and said, you really must address this. And we have a whole raft of new solutions that we have also brought on the table.
Yeah, speaking of old issues being brought up again, the creation of the post of Prime Minister once again. How does this help deal with ethnic divisiveness in this country?
The problem that we have had in the past is the feeling that you can be excluded from government. And that government can actually run with only a couple of communities running it. And if you have a country that has over 40 ethnic communities, and maybe 35 of them have no role to play, or do not see a leader that recognize as playing a role in their governance, then you end up with an alienation, you end up with people feeling excluded, and you end up with unstable government. The role of Prime Minister here is not about power, it's about inclusion, it's about responsibility. That you have a different person also participating. And that is where we went back also to look at the opposition and say, what is the position, what is the role of the opposition now? Do they really play in the role? And we said, no, you need to bring back the idea of the leader of the opposition. It's not just a figurehead, it's a real government institution. And therefore we say that we must recognize that a leader of an opposition must also have a shadow cabinet, which will be actively involved on a daily basis in keeping the government in check. So, and the third thing we also said is that you need to have elected leaders also participating in government. Because the experiment of just having a government of technocrats who people don't identify with, it does not seem to have worked very well.
But you're proposing, or rather the report is proposing, the Prime Minister be appointed by the President, right?
He is appointed by the President.
He or she?
Yes.
Who can be fired by the President at any time?
Yes.
So doesn't this make this Prime Minister an over-glorified minister, you think?
No, because he takes the responsibility of running government and political responsibility too. So, unlike the current situation in which you would just sent around, so to speak, the Prime Minister goes to the House, interacts with the House, reports to the House, and is the one who runs, his Permanent Secretary runs coordinates the PSs. So he's a person who is actively involved in getting everything done by the government itself. So the President will sit at the cabinet level and make the decisions. And they decide what they want to do as a government. Then they pass on those decisions to the Prime Minister, and who goes and meets together with his Permanent Secretary, sits with the PSs and decide how they're going to implement those things. Mm-hmm. And go to the House and answer questions to the House about how they're implementing.
Okay, so a la 2007, if the Prime Minister appointed by the President from the majority party, if it's not the party of the President, in other words, the opposition,
yes,
doesn't that create confusion?
If you're a president and the people have denied your party majority in parliament, first they're making a political statement to you. Because they're saying, we like you, we don't like your party. Mm-hmm. And we don't like the policies of your party. And to the party itself that has been given the majority, the people are also making a political statement and say, we like you as a party, we like your policies, but we don't like your guy. So in effect, they have sent both of them and said, you're going to have to find a way to work together. You as president, because we believe in you and we think you're a nice person, but we don't like a lot of your party's policies. And you as a party, on the basis that we like your policies. And they're going to have to find a way in which the two of them will have to work together.
Like a checks and balances sort of thing.
Yes, and we've been there. We've been in a situation in which we've had a president and a prime minister from two different parties. And it was still a very good experience.
The role of the deputy president stays the same for now.
It would always be the same. I don't think there are many jurisdictions in which deputy presidents have very high responsibilities.
Doesn't it kind of create two centers of power? President there, prime minister there, isn't that, and the deputy president somewhere in between?
The deputy president's powers are the president's powers. He only does what the president tells him. And I think in the political dispensation, the reason you have a deputy president is mostly because of succession. If anything happened, what would happen to the executive? So you always have a person who can succeed the president. But we also have somebody who assists in case president is ill or president has traveled. There's somebody who can play that role. Mm. But in terms of the president and the prime minister's roles are well cut out. As I said, he gets the decisions that are made in cabinet and he goes to implement them. So the cabinet will decide that we're going to build a road from here to the next town. That decision to build that road is now passed to the prime minister. Mm. So he's the one who has to go and find out how we're going to tender for this road, how we're going to get a budget for it. He does the groundwork for that. And the cabinet will continue with this rest of his business of making the policy and making the necessary decisions. Yeah, so they don't clash.
Right. There was a proposal by women during your whole journey to this day that one of those three top positions, president, prime minister, deputy president, would go to a woman because of gender equality. Is that feasible? Is that possible?
I don't think it would be that feasible, because at that level, of political responsibility, you don't want to be tied down by the issue of gender. You want to make sure that you have a prime minister who is the best person to do the job, or you want to have a president who is the most popular, the best person to have a job. And that could go either way. Could be a man, could be a woman. If it's a succession of men, that is okay. If it's a succession of women, that is okay too. Possibly what could be imported into the presidency, which is what we had proposed to the governorship, is that you can always have a woman as a deputy president. As we have said, you always have a deputy governor as a deputy. And that promotes maybe the visibility. If people are to see women in such levels of responsibility, then it could cure the fact that people sometimes feel as if women cannot make good political leaders. Yeah. So the visibility could help the gender issue in terms of breaking ground for women in political circles.
Another key proposal of the document has to do with IEBC. We have been down this road before, Paul. 2007, disbandment of ECK. 2013, disbandment of Itzhak Hassan Commission. We've been down this road
We
before.
have.
What's new?
When we looked at and we talked to IEBC and also took several representations. And one of the biggest problems first that IEBC has is that the chair doesn't make a lot of the decisions. So even when you're interviewing and swearing in a chair and he promises you that he's going to give you a fair election, he doesn't have the power to make some of the decisions that are necessary to deliver on that. So he has to go and meet somebody called a CEO, who is the one who determines whether, how things, a lot of the executive decisions are made. So we said we need to have this chair. As we employ him, we also know that we're employing a person who has executive powers. Oh. The second thing is that when the chair comes, he must be able to determine who he can work with. So we propose that we have the staff of IEBC running on 3-year contracts, so that at every one time, a chair has a chance of, if you're not delivering, he has a chance to remove the people.
But Paul, it reminds me like we're on a football field and the players are picking their own referee. I mean, it doesn't work that way.
The political parties are the ones who know best usually about some of these games. And if they agree on someone, they're the ones first who bring the problem later. So it's not the voters. Mm. So when the problems come, it's the same contestants. We want to find out whether they should be given a role when it comes to deciding who runs this show. And if they agree on someone, or largely agree on someone, you cannot come later and start saying so-and-so was employed by the state or so-and-so was employed by the ruling party. Yeah. The consultation from them before somebody becomes, for instance, chair and commissioner at IEBC is critical for its stability. And the other thing we also dealt with was the issue of returning officers, because chair of the IEBC comes and in a very opaque process determines who are the returning officers in the whole country. And returning officers are the ones who run elections. So we have proposed to have the returning officers speak to the way you pick commissioners. So if you're having a returning officer for Starehe, we are going to have the candidates. We are going to advertise who those candidates are. We are going to have public participation about them, so that when the person is chosen to run the elections in Nairobi, he is known as someone who everybody has passed, everybody has participated in, and then they don't run more than one election.
Right. Okay. Look, I can't let you go, Paul, without asking you about the proposal of fighting corruption. 5% of proceeds going to the whistleblower.
People snitch on each other.
People snitch on their mothers.
Yes.
But isn't this creating another level of corruption altogether? Another layer?
There is no corrupt deal that goes down without somebody watching. And one of the proposals that we had been given was to criminalize lack of reporting for corruption. And that happens with treason. If you witness or have information about an act of treason that's about to be committed and you don't report it, you yourself have an offense called misprision of treason, which carries a life sentence. So the proposal was, do you want to enforce reporting of corruption, or do you want to give people incentive to report corruption? And finally, we thought that maybe instead of criminalizing that process, why don't we give people incentives for them to report when corruption is taking place? Because every corrupt deal has a whole string of witnesses who get to know what is going on. But some of them think, why am I going to do it? What is my benefit from it?
A year and a half later, Paul, you guys have been at this for a year and a half. Is this the document you wanted? Is this it?
Yes, this is the document we wanted. We negotiated a lot. There were many radical proposals. We approached everything to the point that the spirit of BBI was to try to agree on everything, and that we all agree on what our problems are. Can we also try to agree on what the solutions can be? Because it doesn't help much if I think I have a solution and I ride over your head to implement that solution, because after that, then I lose you, and you will not be with me in ensuring that that solution works. So if for every solution that we come up with, and even as we go forward, as people talk, if as much as possible, people can make sure that we all agree on what that solution would be, then I think we are going to have better chances at success in implementing those solutions.
Yeah, I wasn't wrong when I called you joint architect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. Appreciate that. Paul Mwangi there, Joint Secretary, Building Bridges Initiative Task Force, talking to us. There's plenty more. We're going to dissect the whole BBI task force report a little later on the bench. In the meantime, Jeff Koinange Live takes a break. Keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff, at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is JKLIVE.